the more that you put on the plate, the more that you're going to have to eat. So the more things that you put in front of yourself to focus on, the more you're going to have to put that energy. You have 100% energy in you. The more you're going to have to spread that energy out to different things. All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be about how to be more self-disciplined. So this is a very common theme that probably I picked up really just on my own around the age of like 18. I would say 18, 19 is when I really started focusing on this stuff and caring about it a lot. And ever since then, intentionally focusing on my self-discipline. Although I'm by far no means perfect in my self-discipline, I think that I've gotten a lot better at it, and there's a lot of things that I have to share with you that can be tips so that you can be better at becoming more self-disciplined, and just things that might help you along the way in order to do it without as much pushback, I guess, from the world and life. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hopefully it's helpful to you. Definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe for more, and let's just get right into it. Excuse my hair. My hair is pretty greasy. What do you call it? I think I mentioned this in another video, but to keep my hair healthy, I only not shower. I only wash my hair every 3 or 4 days because it protects your hair from being stripped of its natural oils, which happens when you use when you use like regular shampoo every single day, which I did for like years and years, pretty much my whole life until recently. And your hair stops getting oily after the first couple of times of you doing that. It gets super, super oily at first, but after a while your hair produces oil slower because you're not stripping it of its oils every day. So pro tip. But I am going to be looking at my phone for my notes because I did write the basic notes of the points that I want to cover, just to make sure that I'm not talking in circles too much, and just to make sure that I'm covering all the points that I want to make. Although I don't have a script because bro, it takes so long whenever you script it and try and say everything perfectly. I've done it. Makes me super stressed when I'm doing it because I keep having to say the same thing over and over again. It takes hours. I prefer doing it like this, and so I don't have to make as many cuts. You're going to see me looking at my phone, but that's what I'm looking at. But the first thing in how to become more self-disciplined is going to be practicing self-control in every tiny way you can, because you won't do it in big ways if you can't do it in small ways. So the reason why this is really important, because it's really easy to say and think in your head, oh yeah, like I'm gonna do this really big thing and make a huge change in my behavior. I'm gonna start getting 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep every single night, no matter what, because of how good it is for me. It's good for my body, my mind. It's good for my fitness goals, all that stuff. And yes, that's really good. Although it's important to focus on the small things first, because you have to remember that if you're not even able to make small, minute changes in a positive way with small things, like the likelihood that you're going to be able to do that in all the big things is really low. Like if you're expecting yourself to go above and beyond in something that takes a bunch of effort, but meanwhile you can't even have self-discipline or self-control in a small thing. And for example, what that would look like in my life, because although I'm pretty fit, I do have certain fitness goals, and it is hard for me to reach them when I constantly I let my overindulgence of food, when I allow that to get in the way of me meeting my goals. And how can I expect to have the perfect physique, and perfectly, even though, it can never be perfect, I guess, but how can I expect myself to meet my fitness goal, in the long term, and say like, oh, all the other days of the week I'm not gonna over snack or whatever, but just this one day I'll snack today, like here and there, even though it's a good thing to snack. The thing that I'm trying to say here is that it's the small decisions that matter too, just as much as the big ones. You might in your head be like, well, this isn't gonna make a huge change in my life and in my behavior. It doesn't make a huge impact. It's a small decision. It's the small things that add up, and also your ability to be able to have self-discipline in the small decisions you make makes it more likely that you're also going to make the right decisions or make the right choice when you have bigger decisions to make. But the sum of what your decision making is, whether it's to do something that you know is good for you or something that you know is not good for you, the sum of what those things are is most likely what the outcome is going to be in the bigger decision. So if for all the little tiny decisions I'm like, I'm not supposed to be vaping anymore, but I'll just vape here and there. I'm only doing it once. I'm not buying my own vape, and I'm gonna go out and smoke with all my friends and drink on this weekend here and there. It's okay. It's not making that big of a difference, even though I got school the next day or I got work the next day. I think it's fine if I just, don't track my calories today, even though I have very, very high expectations for my body goals. Like, even though it seems like those are little tiny things, it's the tiny things that make up the likelihood of what your choice will be for the big things as well. So pay attention to the tiny decisions you make. And although you might in your head think, well, it's not going to make that huge of an impact on me if I make this positive or negative decision. If the more that you make those positive decisions, the more likely it is that you're going to continue making them when you have the choice to make a big decision. So focus on the tiny decisions first, and then it'll make it a lot easier to make the right choice when you are faced with big decisions in terms of self-discipline. So the second thing is going to be seek to learn and get better in whatever it is you're doing whenever you can. So this is a very small thing and may sound very obvious, but, excuse me, one sec, I need some water, my mouth is getting dry. Stay hydrated, folks. But this is going to make a really, really big change in your ability to continue to have self-discipline and get better in all the things, especially the things you don't want to do. Because what happens is as you start to focus on, when you're at work, say, for example, you get a new job, you're learning the new skill, and you're instead of being like, just sitting back and not really trying to put forth effort to try and get better, you're just kind of sitting and just like someone tells you to correct this and do better at it, then you're like, fine, I'll do that. That's not the right mentality to have. Rather, you want to be forward thinking ahead and of what can I do to change this and just make it slightly better, and get addicted to, in a good way, get addicted to tweaking and being better at things just a little bit every time, always trying to get a little bit better at whatever it is you're doing. For example, my girlfriend's probably going to be watching this, but one thing, this is an example, I'm not dissing you, Gabi, so, but one example would be if you're doing dishes, whatever. You're doing dishes and then you dry the cup, or you're washing them, whatever. You put them face down on the mat after you wash the cup. It's all wet inside. My thing is like, you can make that just a little bit better. That's what I learned from myself, based on my past. Because when my dad told me when I was younger, he was like, oh yeah, if you put the cups flat down like that, then the inside of them doesn't get dry. If you put it on something so that the bottom of the cup is exposed, then the inside of the cup will dry. And although it seems stupid, it seems small, trivial, it's still something you can get still something that you can get better at. Trying to find ways that you can get better in all your different areas will allow you to be more likely to do that again in all the areas, even the areas of life that you have to do things that you don't like your job, your school, like figuring out whatever you can do to do better at it, even if it's draining, will allow you to be more likely, especially in the things that you really want to do, to put forth effort into bettering whatever it is that you're doing. So that will help you to be more self-disciplined in your own life, because rather than looking at it as whenever something comes my way and makes me have to do better at something or change something in my life, like whenever I get health problems, then I'll improve my sleep. Rather than thinking of that, be like, what can I improve in my life right now that will give me better health or give me more enjoyment out of my day, give me more time to have free space in my mind, be able to give me more inner peace and less like anxiety and stress. Finding things that you can do in your day-to-day life and in all the areas of your life will help you, it'll help that behavior to bleed into the different areas. So just in general, I know that that's a very general statement, but figuring out how to be better in one specific area of your life even, and translating that into another area will help that bleed into all the areas of your life. And before you know it, you are automatically on your own becoming a more self-disciplined individual, just because you want to seek out that better quality, that better just improvement, I guess. I know I'm stuttering over my words and I speak in circles a lot, so forgive me, but I'm trying to get my point across here. But the next thing I have for y'all is going to be make intentional effort to make change in habits, purposely pick up new ones. So this one is extremely important. This is something that a lot of people don't think about, but the mind doesn't usually really want, for I would say for a majority of people, doesn't really intentionally want to do things that are always better. It usually waits until it has to. It sits back. But to say like, oh, I just found out this Andrew Huberman podcast tells me that I should be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night for optimal sleep and wake up and probably see the sunrise, or get 20 minutes of light in the morning or whatever, because it'll help me fall asleep better at night and get even better sleep, whatever. Finding out something like that and just being like, well, later down the road, like, when I get a little bit more time, then I'll do it. And just putting it off to the side, brushing it to the side, is a complete waste and prevents you from actually ever changing anything. Because you can say, oh, I'm going to do all these great, amazing things. And I myself have done this, like saying, oh, I'm going to start getting more sleep. I'm going to start reading more. I'm going to start, doing no fap, whatever. I've said all those things in the past a long time ago, but it takes you intentionally putting forth effort to say, okay, so if I really want to do this, what do I have to do? What do I have to change? Because if you don't do that intentionally, those things aren't going to come. The brain likes to be able to sit back and just be at an equilibrium and be stable and just stay where it's at. The mind likes to conserve energy. That's how the brain is wired to work, and that's how your body is wired to work. For the most part, for most people, like, you don't want to have to push forward and put intentional effort into driving. It's the same thing with muscle growth. The body doesn't want to hold on more muscle naturally. That's not what the body is designed to do. The body is designed to conserve as much energy as physically possible, but in order to create muscle growth, you have to intentionally force growth. Force growth is the only way that it happens. Growth doesn't come, naturally without intentionally trying, unless you're extremely genetically gifted. But for the most part, that's not how muscle growth happens. Eventually, you have to intentionally force growth, and the same applies when it comes to being disciplined. You're naturally not going to be inclined to just putting a bunch of effort into intentionally changing a habit, like your sleep. I use that one a lot because it's very important, and most people don't get enough sleep. But you have to put intentional effort into making that decision and being like, okay, rather than just thinking, that's a good idea, maybe I should do that. Being like, okay, well, if that's a good idea, maybe I should do that. How can I do that? How will I do that? When can I start doing that? And setting like almost like a mental goal date. Like, okay, I'm going to start doing it like tomorrow or whatever, tonight. The sooner, the better, honestly, because the longer you say you're going to do it in the future, the more likely it is you're just going to put it off, and that's just facts. So that's what I got for that one. Another water break. The next one that I have for y'all is going to be focus on one thing at a time, not everything at once. This one also I cannot stress the importance of, because I myself have been a huge victim to this. And again, it has to do with the excitement of wanting to better yourself. If you're one of those people that's very goal oriented or really just wants to better themselves, it's super easy to get super excited and ahead of yourself and wanting to better yourself and do all these different things. Like, say you're just getting into fitness. Oh my gosh, okay, I want to start tracking my macros. I want to start, getting 8 hours and 8.5 hours of sleep a night. I want to start eating this many calories. I want to start going to the gym 6 times a week, and then do cardio on my off day, and do all these different things and do my supplements, start taking creatine, start taking pre-workouts, yes, it's good to have all those things. Those things can all be extremely beneficial and helpful, but if your goal is to have an overarching ability to be consistent and disciplined, the more that you put on the plate, the more that you're going to have to eat. So the more things that you put in front of yourself to focus on, the more you're going to have to put that energy. You have 100% energy in you. The more you're going to have to spread that energy out to different things. So if you have 50 things and you have 100% energy, you can only put 2% into each of those 50 things, if that makes sense. Versus if you only have 2 things you focus on, you can put 50% of all of your energy on those 2 things. So the less things that you put on your plate to focus on at a time when you're first getting started is going to be very helpful in order to maintain that longevity and be able to maintain just long-term discipline in those things. Because the more things you have, the more things you're going to have to focus on. And then when your brain starts to run out of energy, and you don't have the mental space and capacity anymore to focus on that, then you're just going to drop all of them more likely than not. So keep in mind, try and do as little as possible when you're really first trying to get self-discipline. Think about the most important things. What are the most important things that you want to get in check, that you're really focused on becoming more self-disciplined in, and just focusing on that one thing rather than a bunch of things at once, because as you start to get used to that and your mind starts to get see that as more of habit rather than intentional effort, because eventually when you do something intentionally so long, it starts to become habit. You start to learn a new language. At first, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Like, you don't know how to speak the new language, but as soon as you keep doing everyday repetition, intentionally learning, even when faced with that difficulty and adversity, eventually it becomes habit and you don't have to try that hard. And then you can start to take your energy off of that and focus on other things, and that'll come naturally. So that's why focusing on one thing at a time, or as few things at a time as possible, is really helpful for becoming more self-disciplined. Next thing I have is going to be learn to look at doing things as doing them because you want to do them, not because you have to in order to be better. So again, well, I guess I could say most of these things are pretty prevalent to me in my experience, because this has happened to me a lot. I think this is the natural human mind when it comes to people that are really goal-oriented. My brain kind of is wired to be like, okay, so if I want to get this outcome, these are the things I have to do. In a lot of videos and shorts that you see me talk about with advice, I say, you have to, you have to, you have to. So that's kind of the way my brain works, but because I know for a fact, if I do A, B, C, I will get result D. But in order to get result D, then you have to do A, B, C. But when you're thinking about self-discipline, you're trying to think about this as a thing that you want to do. Because, again, the natural human mind, the psychology of the brain tends to, for most people, not want to do things that they feel like they have to do that are difficult. If it's something that you want to do that's difficult and you want to do it because you just want to do it, you love it. Say you want to edit spend 5 hours editing a video, but you love it even though it's difficult, that's good. But then the second that your brain starts telling you, all right, you have to do this, rather than you want to do this, that's when it starts becoming lackluster. You don't really want to do it as much. It starts feeling like you're dreading making, self-discipline related decisions. And you have to realize, like, when you start seeing your friends doing things that you're trying to give up because you're trying to become more self-disciplined, people staying up super late on the weekends playing video games all night, people out drinking and smoking all night, doing things that you are in place of, like switching with like sleep or reading or something like that, it's going to seem lame, and it's going to really suck because you're going to feel pretty left out. But you have to realize that it's not like, oh, well, if I wanna be able to be self-disciplined, I just have to give these things up. I just have to stay home. I have to do this. Like, when you think of it like that, you're not gonna want to do that. But the whole purpose you're even trying to make this change is because you want to. There's not somebody, well, there might be, but there's not somebody holding a gun to your head telling you, if you don't make all the self-disciplined decisions right, then I'm gonna pull the trigger and you're gonna die. Like, no, you are consciously making these decisions because you have the choice to. So if that's the case, you can't allow your mind to start telling you, you have to do this. You have to continue to just sit back and allow your mind to be like, you know what? Maybe, although part of me, my past me, wants to make these other decisions, I'm choosing to make the better decision for me, because I know that even in the moment, it's not going to give me that instant gratification, that in the long term, in the future, that is what's going to give me that fulfillment. Although it may not be instant, like the other things I could be doing, I'm doing this because I want to, because I know that it's good for me. And being able to have the enjoyment and satisfaction and knowing that you're doing something good for you, rather than the immediate feeling it gives you. Because when you focus on that immediate feeling, all you're going to do is chase instant gratification, and that's never going to be good, especially for having self-discipline. But yeah, so I think the last thing that I have for y'all is going to be consistent in exercising self-discipline. See instances of you not exercising your self-discipline as a part of a bigger pattern and not individual events. Wah break one more time. But this one, again, super important, especially if you have impulsive decision-making tendencies for whatever it is you're trying to get self-disciplined at. Again, for me, a lot of it is related to caffeine, dopamine, food, and for most people it will be dopamine related activities, but it's really important to see the decisions that you're making when trying to, especially when you're trying to become more self-disciplined in avoiding a specific activity. Again, or I guess I didn't even mention it, so again, wouldn't make sense. But another tip, if you're trying to avoid a specific activity, the best thing and way to look at it is not, okay, don't do this, don't do this. You don't want to focus on not focusing on this thing, because then that's all you're going to be thinking about, but to be just intentionally focused on other things. If your brain thinks about that thing, do your best to just focus on the other stuff, but don't intentionally be like, oh, I can't think about this, because then your brain's going to be obsessing about it, and eventually you're probably going to cave. But if you are dealing with impulsive tendencies with a thing that you are trying to become more self-disciplined and not doing, for example, like NoFap, or, you have eating issues or tendency to impulsively eat. I tend to impulsively eat. It's a little bit in a different way than some people do. But when you start to look at it as, oh, I haven't done it in a few days, so it's like, I'm just doing this one time, but it's still a decision that I have impulsively. I'm going to go, beat my meat, even though I haven't done it in a few weeks. But it's different because it's only one time. Like, I haven't been doing it every day. So, it's a one-time thing. You have to see it as, if it was prior a reoccurring issue or reoccurring impulsive activity, that you doing it one time is not an individual event. It's a part of a bigger picture. So being able to recognize that even if you think in your mind with 100% certainty that this impulsive behavior that you have engaged in time and time again in the past, even if you think, like, it's been 5 years since I've done this, I haven't even done it once, I haven't even smoked a cigarette in years, I'm going to just go do it one time. If you think truly and honestly that that is just an individual event and not part of a bigger picture, you're mistaking yourself, because what does that tell your brain? That tells your brain it's okay to do this, even if it's just once. It's okay to do it here and there. And then eventually it's like, well, I already did that other time. It was fine. So I'm going to do it again. And then before you know it, becomes a loop. But especially if it is a decision that you're making that is an impulsive, you have to see it as, rather than one specific event, an individual event, you have to see it as a part of a bigger picture or reoccurring pattern, because if not, you're more likely than not going to make that decision, and that decision is going to keep happening again and again. I haven't had ice cream in a week, and then you're like, so I'm going to reward myself with ice cream, and then you have it, and then it's fine. Say you're on like a super strict diet, and you just, for whatever reason, even if you're counting calories, you can't have ice cream. Well, then you tell yourself the next week, when you haven't had ice cream for a week, well, it's been a week. I've been doing really good. I deserve some ice cream. If you really think that that's not part of a reoccurring pattern, then that's clearly not true, because if that's something you had a problem with before and you're trying to cut it out, and then all of a sudden you want to do it again, it's probably part of a bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? But that's pretty much all I have for y'all today. I hope y'all enjoyed. Got some good nuggets of wisdom and things that you can do for yourself when trying to improve your self-discipline and self-control. And yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to add to that, but I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe for more. Be sure to go to getrawnutrition.com. Get your supplements, 10% off, code MONKEY, MONKY at checkout. Get your discount, and the same code on retaliationproject.com. Get your merch, 10% off, code MONKEY. Check out my socials, free workout program below in the description, as well as, my social links, everything like that. Again, hope you all have an amazing day. I'll see you on the next one.